The Thakron probe arrived on a Tuesday morning, 16 months after Dahyun had first struck metal with his excavator. It appeared in Earth's orbit without fanfare, a small dark object moving with purpose among humanity's satellites. Every telescope on the planet tracked it. Every sensor array monitored its movements. The probe spent 3 days scanning Earth. It examined the cities, the energy signatures, the shield generators that now protected every major population center. It detected the modified quantum field generators positioned strategically around the globe. It analyzed communication traffic and technological signatures. Then humanity sent its message. Jiwon had refined the translation over months of study. When it was finally transmitted toward the probe in perfect Thakron language, she felt her hands shaking on the console. The probe stopped moving. For 10 minutes, it simply hung in space, processing what it had received. Then it turned and accelerated away from Earth at speeds that made human spacecraft look like children's toys. "It is going back to report," Suhyuk confirmed. "We just told the Thakron Empire that Earth is not an easy target." "How long?" Bora asked. The Velnar AI calculated based on known Thakron expansion patterns and probable outpost locations. 4 months minimum. 8 months maximum. They will send a fleet. Standard doctrine is 20 warships for a newly spacefaring civilization. "Can we handle 20 warships?" Kyungmin asked Taeyang. The young physicist looked tired. He had barely slept in months. "I do not know. Our shields can take a lot of punishment. Our disruptor fields should limit their offensive capabilities. But we have never tested any of this in actual combat. We are guessing based on theory and simulations." "Then we keep working," Dahyun said. "We have 4 months. We use every day." The world did not panic. Instead, something remarkable happened. The human species doubled down on its unity. Manufacturing increased. Training intensified. Every nation contributed resources without argument. It was as if humanity had finally found its purpose. Hanul worked with military commanders from 40 different countries, creating a coordinated defense strategy. It was not traditional military thinking. They were not planning to meet the Thakrons in space battles or on battlefields. Instead, they would make Earth itself a fortress that was too costly to conquer. "The Thakrons operate on a cost-benefit analysis," Hanul explained. "They conquer because it is profitable. They take resources, technology, and sometimes the conquered species themselves as slaves. But if conquering costs more than it gains, they will negotiate or leave." "You think they will just go away?" Kyungmin asked skeptically. "No, but I think they might be willing to leave us alone if we prove we are too dangerous to conquer easily. They have thousands of other species to exploit. Why waste resources on one that fights back?" Yuna's medical research had continued. She discovered that the human stress response, which seemed like a weakness, was actually an advantage in crisis situations. Human bodies flooded with adrenaline could react faster and think more clearly under pressure than most species in the Velnar database. It meant human operators would perform better in combat situations, not worse. The shield operators trained constantly. They learned to move power between generators instantly, reinforcing areas under attack while maintaining coverage elsewhere. They practiced coordinating across continents, sharing resources in real time. They became a global network of defenders connected by technology and purpose. Saiwan's broadcasts evolved. He stopped talking about the threat and started celebrating what humanity had achieved. "Look at us," he said in one memorable speech. "We have gone from a divided species to a united civilization in less than 2 years. We have adapted alien technology that took the Velnar thousands of years to develop. We have built defenses that span our entire world. The Thakrons think we are primitives. They are about to learn they are very, very wrong." 5 months after the probe left, the Velnar AI detected ships entering the solar system, 23 of them moving in formation toward Earth. The Thakron fleet had arrived ahead of schedule. "They are not wasting time," the AI observed. "This fleet composition suggests they expect moderate resistance but not significant threat. They are confident." "Good," Hanul said. "Confident enemies make mistakes." The fleet took 2 weeks to reach Earth orbit. During that time, humanity watched and waited. The shields were powered up and tested constantly. The disruptor fields were calibrated. Every operator was at their station. Every backup system was active. The Thakrons sent a message when they achieved orbital position. It was in dozens of Earth languages, clearly prepared after analyzing the probe's data. The message was simple: surrender your world. You will be integrated into the Thakron Empire. Resistance will result in destruction. Bora responded personally. She stood in the facility's communication center with Daehyun, Jiwon, Hyejin, Taeyang, and the others around her. She spoke in English, but the message was translated into Thakran language and broadcast to the fleet. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We offer you a choice instead. Leave in peace or test our defenses and learn why we have survived everything our world has thrown at us for millions of years. We are a young species, but we are not weak. We are not divided. And we will not be conquered. The response came in the form of weapons fire. 3 Thakran ships opened fire on major cities simultaneously: New York, Beijing, and Mumbai. The plasma beams were powerful enough to level mountains. They struck the quantum shields and dispersed harmlessly. The cities below felt a slight vibration. Nothing more. Taeyang grinned fiercely. Shields holding at 87% capacity. The generators are working better than we hoped. The Thakrons increased their assault. All 23 ships began firing at different targets around the globe. For 10 minutes, Earth was under constant bombardment. The shields flickered and flared but held. Operators around the world coordinated perfectly, moving power to reinforce areas under heavy attack. Then, Taeyang activated the disruptor fields. The modified quantum generators created interference patterns in space around Earth. The Thakran ships suddenly found their weapons losing power. Their shields flickered. Their engines struggled to maintain position. What is happening? The Thakran commander's communication came through clearly, not to humanity but to his own fleet. Suhyuk had hacked their communications and was monitoring everything. They adapted Velnar technology. Another Thakran voice replied. Our intelligence was incomplete. This species is more advanced than projected. The Thakran fleet pulled back from Earth orbit, regrouping beyond the Moon's orbit. They held position there for 2 days, clearly reassessing their situation. Humanity did not attack. The shields remained active, but no offensive action was taken. Finally, the Thakran commander sent another message directly to Bora. How did primitives acquire Velnar technology? The Velnar were eliminated centuries ago. Jiwon crafted the response carefully. The Velnar left us a gift. They believed in us when we were still primitive. They gave us the tools to defend ourselves. And we adapted those tools beyond their original specifications. We are creative that way. You cannot match our fleet, the commander replied. You have defense but no offense. Eventually, your shields will fail. Your generators will run out of power. Then we will take your world. You can try, Bora sent back. But ask yourself, how many ships will you lose? How much time will you waste? How many resources will you expend? We will never stop defending our world. Every day you spend here is a day you could be conquering easier targets. Is Earth worth the cost? The Thakran commander did not respond immediately. The fleet held position for 3 more days. During that time, humanity remained at full alert. The operators never left their stations. The generators ran continuously. Then something unexpected happened. A different Thakran ship, smaller and faster than the warships, approached Earth alone. It transmitted a request to speak with human leadership privately. The conversation that followed lasted 6 hours. The Thakran representative was not the military commander but a civilian administrator. Through careful diplomatic dance mediated by both the Velnar AI and Jiwon's translation expertise, a truth emerged. The Thakran Empire was vast but not unlimited. They had resources, but those resources were spread across thousands of conquered worlds. Earth had proven it could defend itself. Taking Earth would require a much larger fleet, more time, and significant casualties. The Empire's administrators were questioning whether this was worth the investment. You are an anomaly, the administrator admitted. Most species we conquer are already dying from internal conflicts when we arrive. You unified in response to threat. Most species panic and fragment. You organized and adapted. Your biology allows you to interface with technology in ways we have not seen. Conquering you will be costly. So leave us alone, Bora said simply. We cannot simply leave. The Empire must save face, but perhaps an alternative arrangement could be reached. The negotiation took another week. In the end, an agreement was reached that no one had anticipated. Earth would be declared a protected developing world under Thakran law. The Empire would not attempt conquest. In exchange, humanity would not expand aggressively into Thakran-controlled space for 100 years. 6 months had passed since the discovery, and the world had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The construction site in Pakistan had expanded into a massive facility that could be seen from space. Thousands of people worked there around the clock, learning alien technology and adapting it for human use. Hanul had arrived 3 months earlier. She was a strategist who had defected from North Korea 10 years ago and now worked with international security organizations. She had survived in one of the most oppressive regimes on Earth by being smarter than everyone around her. When Bora asked her to join the planning committee, she accepted immediately. "You want my opinion?" Hanul said during a strategy session. "Stop thinking like humans have always thought. The Thakrans expect us to be divided. They expect us to be primitive and panicking. We need to give them something completely unexpected." "Such as?" Kyungmin asked. "We use our weakness as our strength. They think we are fragile because we have soft bodies and short lifespans. They think we are slow because we do not have their technology, but we have something they may not have seen before." "What?" Daehyun asked. "Adaptability, creativity, the ability to change faster than they can predict." Yuna was a medical doctor who had been studying the Velnar biological data from the ship's database. She made a discovery that changed how everyone thought about humanity's chances. She called an emergency meeting and presented her findings with barely contained excitement. "I have been comparing human DNA with the genetic information from 47 different species in the Velnar database," Yuna explained, showing complex charts on a large display. "Humans are different. Our genetic adaptability is extraordinary." "What does that mean?" Bora asked. "It means we evolve faster. We adapt to new environments more quickly than most species in the database. Our immune systems are incredibly robust. Our brains form new neural pathways throughout our entire lives. We are, biologically speaking, built for change." Taeyang leaned forward, interested. "Does this affect how we interface with the Velnar technology?" "Yes," Yuna said. "I have been testing this with volunteers. Humans can connect with the ship's control systems more effectively than the Velnar themselves could. Our brains adapt to the interface faster. We learn the systems more quickly." "Why would that be?" Jiwon asked. "Because the Velnar were older as a species, more settled. Their biology had stabilized over millions of years. Humans are still young, still changing. Our brains are still plastic enough to handle completely new types of input." This was crucial information. It meant that human operators could potentially control Velnar technology better than it was designed to be controlled. It meant humanity had a natural advantage that no one had anticipated. Siwon was a former news anchor who had become the voice of the global unity movement. He had a gift for speaking to people in ways that inspired rather than frightened. His broadcasts reached billions, and his message was always the same. Humanity was stronger together. "Look at what we have accomplished," Siwon said in one of his evening broadcasts, standing in front of the facility with lights blazing behind him. 6 months ago, we were dozens of nations competing for resources and territory. Today, we are one species working toward survival. We have achieved more in half a year than we managed in the previous century. Why? Because we finally have a reason to cooperate that matters more than our differences." His words resonated. Global cooperation was not perfect, but it was real. Technology sharing accelerated. Resource distribution became more efficient. People started thinking of themselves as humans first and members of nations second. The quantum shield technology progressed rapidly. Taeyang had cracked the fundamental principles and shared them freely with teams around the world. Within 4 months, they had built the first shield generator capable of protecting an entire city. Within 6 months, they had 50 generators positioned around the world's major population centers. But it was not just about shields. Soo-hyuk and his teams had integrated the Velnar AI with Earth's global communication systems. This allowed instant translation between any languages and coordinated manufacturing efforts across continents. The AI became a tool for unity, helping humans work together more effectively than ever before. Daehyun spent his days coordinating construction efforts. They were building more than shields. They were constructing a global defense network that connected every protected city, allowing them to share power and redistribute shield strength where it was needed most. It was ambitious, maybe impossible, but they had to try. One evening, as Daehyun was reviewing construction schedules, Jiwon came to him with a new translation from the ship's historical files. She looked troubled. "I found something about the ship's crash," she said. "The location was not random. The Velnar deliberately crashed here." "Why?" Daehyun asked. "Because they knew they were dying. They knew their species would not recover in time to warn other races about the Thakrans, so the captain chose to crash near a developing civilization. Near us, they hoped we would find the ship eventually. They hoped we would have time to prepare. Daehyun felt a chill run through him.
They chose Earth specifically?
Yes, the captain's logs are clear. They had observed human civilizations during their visit in 1247. They saw our cities, our agriculture, our art. They believed we had potential. The captain wrote that humans showed remarkable resilience and creativity. Despite having very basic technology, he thought if any primitive species could eventually stand against the Thakrans, it might be us. It was humbling and terrifying at the same time. 8 centuries ago, an alien captain had made a choice that would determine humanity's fate. They had hidden their ship and their warning in the earth, betting that someday humans would be ready to receive both. The Thakran probe was now 3 months from Earth orbit. The ship's sensors tracked it constantly. It was scanning everything as it approached. Radio signals, satellite positions, energy outputs. It was gathering data about human civilization to send back to its masters. Let it look, Hunyul said during a strategy meeting. Let it see our shields. Let it see our unity. Let it report that humans are not what the Thakrans expect. What if that makes them send more ships? Kyungmin worried. They will send their standard fleet regardless, Nihunul replied. The only question is whether they expect an easy fight or a difficult one. I prefer they be surprised. The team had been working on a communication strategy. When the Thakran probe arrived, they would send it a message. Not a plea for mercy or a declaration of war, something else entirely. Jiwon had worked with the AI to create a message in the Thakran language. It was short and direct. We are humanity. We know you are watching. We know you will come. We are ready. Choose peace or learn why we survived this long. It is provocative, Bora noted. It is honest, Jiwon replied. The Thakrans respect strength. If we seem weak or desperate, they will show no mercy. But if we seem confident and prepared, they might hesitate. Yuna's medical teams had been training volunteers to interface directly with the shield systems. These operators would be humanity's first line of defense, controlling the quantum fields that protected their cities. They trained for hours each day, learning to think in sync with the Velnar technology. And they were getting good at it, better than anyone expected. Taeyang had made another breakthrough. He discovered that the quantum generators could do more than just create shields. They could also disrupt certain types of technology. Specifically, they could interfere with the power systems that Thakran ships used. It is not a weapon exactly, Taeyang explained to the council, but if we configure the generators correctly, we can create fields that will drain power from any ship that gets too close. Their weapons will not work. Their engines will stall. They will be forced to retreat or risk losing their ships entirely. Can we build enough of these modified generators? Bora asked. We can try, but it will mean diverting resources from the shield construction. Do it, Bora ordered. Defense is good, but we need options. We need to show them we can push back. The world watched and waited. In homes and schools, in cities and villages, people followed the news about the approaching probe. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Pride, determination, hope. The humans had found an alien ship buried in their soil. They had learned its secrets. They had united their species in ways that had seemed impossible, and now they were preparing to face a threat that had conquered thousands of worlds. The Thakrans expected primitives. They were going to meet humanity instead. The world changed overnight. Within 48 hours of confirming the Thakran probe's existence, every major government knew about the buried ship and the threat approaching Earth. The United Nations called an emergency session. Military forces went on high alert. News networks showed satellite images of the construction site that had become the center of humanity's attention. Bora was the UN representative chosen to coordinate the international response. She was a veteran diplomat who had spent 20 years managing conflicts between nations, but this was different. This was not about territory or resources or ideology. This was about survival as a species. She arrived at the site with a team of advisors and immediately requested a full briefing from the ship's AI. Daehyun, Jiwon, and Soo-yuk walked her through everything they had learned. Bora listened carefully, asking precise questions, her face showing no emotion. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So we have 18 months, she finally said. What are our options? The Velnar AI has provided access to their technology database, Soo-yuk explained. Some of it is beyond our current understanding, but some we can adapt. The ship itself still has functioning manufacturing equipment in its lower levels. Can we build weapons? Bora asked. We can try, Dr. Roberts said. But the AI warns that the Thakrons have been doing this for 10,000 years. They have conquered thousands of worlds. If we try to fight them with conventional weapons, even weapons based on Velnar technology, we will lose. Then what do? Bora demanded. Surrender? Hope they are merciful? They are not merciful, Jiwan said quietly. I have read the historical files. The Thakrons do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They conquer or they destroy. There is no third option in their thinking. Tai Yang arrived that afternoon. He was a physicist from Seoul National University, one of the brightest minds in his field. He was only 28, but had already published groundbreaking papers on quantum mechanics and energy systems. The moment he saw the ship's power core, his eyes lit up like a child seeing fireworks. This is incredible, he breathed, staring at the quantum field generator that powered the Velnar ship. This technology could change everything. Energy production, transportation, communications, everything. Can you understand it? Daehyun asked. Given time, yes. The principles are consistent with theories I have been exploring. But this is the application, the proof that it works. Taeyang pulled out his tablet and began taking notes frantically. If we can replicate this, if we can build our own generators, how long would that take? Bora asked. Taeyang paused, calculating. With full international cooperation and unlimited resources? 6 months to build a prototype. Another year to scale up production. We have 18 months total, Bora reminded him. Then we need to start immediately. The problem became apparent within days. Every major nation wanted access to the ship's technology, but no one wanted to share what they learned. The Americans wanted to take the ship to Nevada. The Chinese insisted it should remain in Pakistan, but under international supervision. The Russians sent spies to steal data. The European Union demanded equal access. India threatened to close its airspace if it was excluded. Hyejin watched the politicians argue and shook her head in frustration. The Thakrons are coming to conquer us, and we are fighting each other over who gets the better technology. We are doing their work for them. She was right. The ship's AI had been monitoring human communications and had noted the same thing. This is why the Thakrons succeed, the AI explained to anyone who would listen. Species that reach space travel while still divided are easy to conquer. You fight each other instead of the true threat. Nari arrived during the 3rd week of international negotiations. She was a philosopher and ethicist from Korea University, brought in to help navigate the moral complexities of the situation. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to see through pretense directly to truth. She spent 2 days reviewing all the information, talking to the scientists, reading the Velnar historical files. Then she called a meeting with Bora and the key team members. I have a question, Nari said. The Thakrons have conquered thousands of species over 10,000 years. That is a perfect record. Why do they always win? Superior technology, Dr. Roberts suggested. Numerical superiority, Kyung-min added. Experience, Suyuk offered. Nari shook her head. Those are factors, yes, but the AI has shown me something else. The Thakrons win because they understand their enemies. They study each species carefully. They identify weaknesses and exploit them. For some species, the weakness is biological. For others, it is technological. But for most species, the weakness is social. You mean division, Bora said. Exactly. Most spacefaring species are still tribally minded. They think in terms of groups and territories. The Thakrons arrive and offer deals to different factions. They turn species against themselves. By the time the fighting ends, the Thakrons have won without major battles. So what do? Daehyun asked. We refuse to be divided, Nari said simply. We show them something they have not seen before, unity. It sounded impossible. Humanity had never been united. Wars, conflicts, competitions between nations had been constant throughout history. How could they suddenly become one people in the face of an external threat? But then something unexpected happened. Suyuk had been monitoring global communications, watching the public reaction to the news. At first there had been panic, then fear. But now something else was emerging. People were talking to each other across borders. Scientists were sharing research without waiting for government approval. Engineers were collaborating on designs. Regular citizens were organizing aid networks to support the project. A movement was building from the bottom up, not from governments down. Look at this. Soo-hyuk showed them a video that had gone viral. It showed a classroom of children from 20 different countries, connected via video call singing together. The song was simple, just a few words. We are one Earth, we are one people. It was not much, but it was a start. Bora made a decision. She bypassed the arguing governments and appealed directly to the world's scientists, engineers, and technicians. We need your help, she broadcast globally. Not for your nations, for your species. Come to Pakistan. Help us understand this technology. Help us prepare. They came in thousands, not because their governments told them to, but because they chose to. They came from every continent, speaking hundreds of languages, bringing their expertise and their hope. Taeyang led the technical teams, breaking down the Velnar technology into pieces that different groups could work on. Jiwon organized communication protocols to overcome language barriers. Heejin coordinated resource allocation. Kyungmin managed security without interfering with the open collaboration. And Daehyun, the civil engineer who had started all this by hitting metal with an excavator, found himself at the center of something larger than he had ever imagined. He was not a leader or a scientist or a warrior, but he was someone who got things done, and right now that was exactly what humanity needed. 3 months after the discovery, they had their first success. Taeyang's team built a working quantum field generator based on Velnar designs. It was crude compared to the original, but it worked. They could generate power on a scale previously impossible, but they still faced the biggest question. The Thakron probe was getting closer. Soon it would scan Earth and report back. When the fleet arrived, what would humanity's answer be? We will not build warships, Bora announced in a closed session. We do not have time to match their military. Instead, we build shields. We protect our cities. We show them we cannot be easily conquered. Then we negotiate from a position of strength. It was a gamble, but it was the only gamble they had. 3 days after the opening appeared, the international team had grown to over 50 specialists. Among them was Jiwon, a Korean xenolinguist who specialized in ancient and theoretical languages. She arrived with 12 suitcases of equipment and an excitement that was almost childlike. For someone who had spent her career studying the possibility of alien communication, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. Daehyun led her down into the excavation on her first day. She stopped at the entrance to the ship and simply stared, her mouth hanging open. The symbols were still glowing, still shifting when observed. She pulled out a tablet and began photographing everything, her hands shaking slightly. These are not random, she said after an hour of study. There is structure here. Grammar, syntax, this is language, not just decoration. Kyungmin, the military liaison assigned to secure the site, watched from a distance. He was a serious man in his 40s who had served in special forces before taking this position. He did not like mysteries, and this entire situation was one massive mystery. His job was to make sure nothing dangerous came out of that ship and that no one unauthorized got in. How long before you can read it? Kyungmin asked Jiwon. Years, maybe, she admitted. We have nothing to compare it to. No Rosetta Stone, unless what? Daehyun asked. Unless the ship can teach us. That afternoon, Soo-hyuk arrived. He was a tech specialist who worked with artificial intelligence and computer systems. He was younger than Daehyun, barely 30, with thick glasses and constant energy. He had been brought in to interface with any computer systems they might find inside the ship. The team made their first venture inside the next morning. Daehyun, Heejin, Jiwon, Soo-hyuk, Dr. Roberts, and 2 security officers moved carefully through the opening. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that were clearly not human in design. Everything was slightly wrong. The doorways were taller and narrower than normal. The walls curved in ways that suggested different aesthetic preferences. The floor had a slight texture that provided grip but felt strange through their boots. They moved deeper into the ship, and with each step, more lights activated automatically along the ceiling. They found the bridge after 20 minutes of careful exploration. It was a circular room with a domed ceiling that showed stars, but these were not Earth stars. The constellations were completely unfamiliar. In the center of the room was a pedestal with a smooth surface similar to the hull outside. Soo-hyuk approached it cautiously. He pulled out his equipment and began scanning. There is active power here, he reported. Low level, but definitely present. This system is in standby mode. Can you activate it? Dr. Roberts asked. Maybe. Give me time. Time was something they had, at least for now. The team set up a base camp just inside the ship's entrance. Over the next week, they mapped the interior and discovered amazing things. The ship had crew quarters, storage areas, what looked like a medical bay, and a massive engine room that none of them could begin to understand. But the most important discovery came from Suyuk's work on the bridge. On the 8th day, he managed to establish a basic interface with the ship's computer system. The pedestal lit up with displays that floated in the air above it, showing text and images in the alien language. Then something unexpected happened. The displays changed. The alien text began to shift and transform, cycling through different forms. Jiwan gasped as she recognized what was happening. "It is trying to find a language we can read," she said. "It is sampling our speech, our writings. It is learning." The process took 3 hours. When it finished, the display showed Korean text. Simple words at first, then more complex sentences. The ship's AI was communicating. "I am the vessel keeper," the text read. "I have waited 782 years for contact. Why have you taken so long?" The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the display. Finally, Suyuk typed a response on his tablet, which his interface system transmitted to the ship's computer. "We did not know you were here. Who are you? Where did you come from?" The response came quickly. "I am Velnar Construction, built for deep exploration. My crew numbered 47. All deceased. I crashed while escaping destruction. I sealed myself and waited for recovery that never came." Over the following days, they learned the story. The Velnar had been a peaceful species that explored the galaxy, cataloging worlds and species. They had visited Earth in the year 1247 by human calendars, during their routine exploration of this spiral arm. They had observed human civilization with great interest. "You were primitive by our standards," the AI explained, "but you showed remarkable creativity and resilience. The Velnar marked humanity as a species worth monitoring. We believed you had great potential." "What happened to your crew?" Hajan asked through the interface. "We were attacked by the Thakrons. They are an empire that conquers and enslaves other species. They have been expanding through the galaxy for 10,000 years. They attacked our homeworld and our fleet. My ship escaped but was damaged. We crashed here, unable to repair or call for help." Jiwan spent hours each day learning more from the AI. She discovered that the Velnar had kept extensive databases of other species, technologies, and galactic history. The ship was basically a library of alien knowledge, but then came the warning that changed everything. "The Thakrons have a method," the AI explained one evening. "They catalog every species they discover. They monitor them. When a species develops space travel and reaches beyond their home system, the Thakrons return. They conquer them when they are advanced enough to be useful but not advanced enough to resist." "How do they know when a species reaches space?" Dahyun asked. "They have monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. They detect signs of advanced technology, radio signals, artificial satellites, spacecraft leaving planetary orbit." The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity had been sending radio signals into space for over a century. Humanity had satellites everywhere. Humanity had landed robots on Mars and sent probes beyond the solar system. "Are they coming?" Kyungmin asked, his voice tight. The AI was silent for a moment, which somehow made the answer worse. "I have been monitoring your communications network since awakening. I have learned about your recent achievements in space. If the Thakrons detected your Mars missions or your outer system probes, they will come. They are always systematic. They always return." "When?" Dr. Roberts asked. "I do not know. It depends on how far away their nearest outpost is. But they will come. They never ignore a species that reaches the threshold." That night, Daehyun could not sleep. He lay in his tent and stared at the ceiling, thinking about what they had learned. They had found an alien ship and thought it was the discovery of the century. Instead, they had found a warning. Humanity had been noticed by something dangerous, and now they needed to decide what to do about it. The next morning, Suyuk detected something with the ship's long-range sensors, which they had managed to reactivate. There was an object entering the outer solar system, moving against natural orbital mechanics. It was small, fast, and definitely artificial. "It is a probe," the AI confirmed. "Thakron design. They are already here. They are scanning your world. When the probe returns to its base, the Thakrons will know everything about you, your technology level, your population, your weaknesses. Then they will decide when to return with their fleet." The AI calculated the probe's trajectory. It would reach Earth orbit in approximately 18 months. Humanity's time had just run out. The sun was setting over the construction site when Daehyun's excavator hit something that shouldn't be there. The metal teeth of his machine screamed against an unexpected surface, sending vibrations up through the controls and into his hands. He killed the engine immediately and climbed down to investigate. Daehyun was a civil engineer from Korea, working on a new highway project in rural Pakistan. He had been digging foundations for bridge supports when his equipment struck the anomaly. Standing at the bottom of the pit, 40 feet below ground level, he stared at what his machine had uncovered. It was metal, but not like any metal he had seen before. The surface was smooth, almost like glass, with a dark blue sheen that seemed to shift in the fading light. He pulled out his radio and called Hyejin, the site geologist. She arrived within minutes, sliding down the temporary access ramp with her equipment bag bouncing against her hip. Hyejin had worked with Daehyun for 3 years across various projects, and he trusted her judgment completely. She knelt beside the exposed surface and ran her gloved hand across it. Her eyes widened. She pulled out a handheld scanner and held it against the metal. The device beeped rapidly, then displayed readings that made her frown. "This is not normal," she said quietly in Korean. "The composition is wrong. These elements should not be together like this." "What do you mean wrong?" Daehyun asked, crouching beside her. "I mean, this metal contains materials and combinations that do not occur naturally on Earth. Some of these ratios are impossible with our current technology." She looked up at him, and he could see concern in her eyes. "Daehyun, I think we need to stop digging and call someone." Minho, the site supervisor, was not pleased when they told him they needed to halt construction. He was a practical man who measured success in completed meters and finished deadlines. Standing in the site office trailer, he crossed his arms and shook his head. "You want to stop everything because of strange metal? Maybe it is just old pipeline or storage tank," Minho said. "It is not a pipeline," Hyejin insisted. "My readings show this object is massive. It extends at least 200 meters in every direction from where we found it, and the depth suggests it has been here for a very long time." "How long?" Minho asked. "Centuries, maybe longer." That got his attention. Minho made the call to local authorities and to their parent company's headquarters. By midnight, the site was surrounded by security fencing and Pakistani military vehicles. By morning, an international team of scientists was flying in from 3 different countries. Daehyun did not sleep that night. He kept thinking about the metal surface and the way Hyejin's scanner had reacted to it. He had spent his entire career working with earth and stone and concrete. He understood how these things behaved. But this was something else entirely. The next day, the excavation resumed under strict supervision. This time, they dug carefully around the object using hand tools and brushes near the surface itself. What they uncovered took everyone's breath away. It was not a pipeline or tank. It was a hull. A ship's hull. The surface stretched in smooth curves, suggesting an aerodynamic design far more advanced than any aircraft Daehyun had ever seen. As more of it was revealed, strange symbols began to appear along its length. The symbols seemed to be etched or somehow embedded in the metal itself. But the strangest thing was that when Daehyun looked at them directly, they appeared to shift slightly as though moving underwater. Hyejin noticed this too. She photographed the symbols from multiple angles, but each photograph showed them slightly differently. "This should not be possible," she whispered. "These markings are changing, but there is no power source. How can they move without energy?" The lead scientist, an American physicist named Dr. Roberts, theorized that the symbols might be responsive to observation or perhaps to neural activity. "Some materials can react to bioelectric fields," he explained. "The human brain generates electrical signals. Perhaps these markings are designed to respond to the presence of conscious observers." Daehyun found this explanation unsettling. It meant the ship, or whatever this was, had been designed with living beings in mind. It was technology, yes, but technology that interfaced with life itself. On the 3rd day, as Daehyun stood near the exposed section of hull, his curiosity overcame his caution. He reached out and touched the surface with his bare hand. The metal was neither hot nor cold. It felt almost neutral, like touching perfectly temperature-matched glass. The moment his skin made contact, everything changed. The symbols nearest to his hand flared with soft blue light. The glow spread outward in ripples, racing along the hull's surface like electricity through water. Daehyun jerked his hand back, but it was too late. Something had been activated. A sound emerged from deep within the buried structure. It was low and resonant, like the hum of massive machinery waking from a long sleep. The ground trembled slightly. Everyone on site froze, staring at the glowing hull. Then a section of the surface, about 3 meters wide and 4 meters tall, simply vanished. Not opened like a door, but disappeared, revealing a dark interior passage. Air rushed out from the opening, air that had been sealed inside for who knew how long. It smelled strange but not unpleasant, with a faint metallic tang. Dr. Roberts immediately ordered everyone back. He deployed atmospheric testing equipment, sending drones into the opening. The results came back within minutes and shocked everyone present. The air inside was breathable. More than that, it was nearly identical to Earth's atmosphere, with appropriate oxygen levels and no dangerous contaminants. The temperature inside was a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius. Environmental systems were still functioning after centuries underground. Daehyun stood at the edge of the excavation pit, staring at the opening he had somehow triggered. His heart was pounding. He had woken something that had been sleeping beneath the earth for longer than his country had existed. The symbols continued to glow softly, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost like breathing. Hyejin joined him at the edge. She did not speak, but she took his hand and squeezed it gently. They both understood that their lives had just changed forever. They had found something impossible, something that should not exist but clearly did. As night fell and portable lights were set up around the site, Daehyun looked at the open passage and wondered what else lay waiting inside. He wondered who had built this ship and why it had been buried here. He wondered if opening it had been a terrible mistake. Most of all, he wondered if somewhere out in the universe, something had noticed that after centuries of silence, the ship was finally awake again.